SaaS or software companies, this is so critical because it'll specify who owns the code and platform and what license is granted to users, and whether users can modify or reverse engineer the software, which, if you think about it, would be so damaging to the company's business. For content platforms, these clauses will address who owns the uploaded content and so on and so forth. And well-drafted IP ownership clauses will clearly state what constitutes, the company's intellectual property, such as software code, trademarks, logos, etc., and how these assets are legally protected, who owns the content created or uploaded by users to the platform, okay? And what rights the company grants to users, such as the right to access and use the service, and what rights users grant to the company, such as the right to host, display, or distribute user content. Clear restrictions on how users can interact with the company's intellectual property, including prohibitions on copying, modifying, redistributing, or using it for commercial purposes without permission. And there should be ideally very detailed process to report and remove infringing content, because that's extremely important. If either party sort of claims that something has been infringed, there should be a mechanism in place to actually be able to enforce it. And users are prohibited from decompiling, disassembling, or attempting to extract source code or reverse engineer the proprietary software. Now, at the start of the session, do you remember when we discussed what, the aims are, specific aims are? What do you remember what we said, whether we want to, through all of this that we're learning through this community, do you want to get into freelancing? Do you want to land a law firm job or in-house or like a GCC kind of role? Do we remember what we said? Yes, we do remember. Okay. Now, whatever you choose, it's extremely important to have a grasp over these 4 clauses and the clauses you learned in the first webinar. This is going to take you far when you gain the trust of future clients and interviewers. And if you choose a law firm or an in-house job, this review skill is exactly what interviewers test. They are not going to remember this. Again, we are teaching you how this works in practice, but what we are discussing right now is still theory. The actual practice is when you put pen to paper and you actually start drafting on this, or well, fingers to keyboard in this case. And the client will not expect you to narrate what a rep and warranty is or what this clause is or that clause is. The client will expect you to know how to draft it in a way that best protects them. Or they will tell you the challenges they're facing or the particular aims that they're trying to achieve, and how best you can, draft their stuff in a way that helps them out. Similarly, in an in-house interview, they will tell you that this is what is going on in our, business. They'll literally give you a case, like a live or a situational example. This is the situation. How do I sort of, if the other party is, claiming, for example, an uncapped liability, or is claiming a very high sort of, very high sort of limit on, liability. How can we sort of structure that? What can be our sort of, position that we can give away? Or, where else, even if we give that away, where else can we make, concessions, in which other provisions? So there is going to be a nice interplay of like provisions. And this is something, you will of course gain through practice. But at the same time, you will gain through, someone who is trusted enough to sort of review your work, and, also the reference materials that we give you. For example, there is a checklist today that, we will be giving away. I don't know if I think we are yet to post it, but it covers every clause that the terms and conditions of an e-commerce company should have. You will be using it for today's homework, and also to review the terms and conditions of every startup you work with hereafter, which is also something we will be talking about very, very shortly. So now, we are going to talk about what the, sort of homework is for us right now for today. So we have here, okay, let me quickly take you through the checklist first. Right. So I hope everything's visible, but if not, please do flag. So the checklist for the terms and conditions for an e-commerce platform, it's a starting point, okay, but it's pretty detailed, but it's a starting point. For our purpose, it's going to work across, clients from different industries. But of course, the application will be entirely yours. Now, look at the kind of stuff that you will need to have in mind, and no need to worry. We will be, of course, sending this across, but just look at the depth and sort of detail that you'll have to, review. Ideally, a terms and conditions document in. So we've given you a checklist. Okay, these are the things, essentially the items you have to keep in mind when you're reviewing a TNC document. And now I'll show you what the situation is. And now we've given you like a problem, like a homework problem, which is that there's this Greenleaf Organics company, which is, it's a Delhi-based startup. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit for everyone's benefit. So it's a Delhi-based startup that sells organic food products online. They launched their e-commerce platform 6 months ago, and it was whatever incorporated so and so date with the CIN. Essentially, they're an organic produce company, and let's say they've come to you with a problem. This is kind of what their business model is. It's direct to consumer delivery. We mentioned all of this for you, so you understand the context and the background and the business model a little bit. Now there's a list of challenges that they're facing. Sometimes their customers will refuse cash on delivery orders, which will lead to wastage and disputes. There will be sometimes about freshness. Customers will claim that the products were rotten on arrival, which is not ideal for either party. Then customers will try to return open personal care products, which, as we all know, is just not acceptable generally. And there are delivery delays during festivals and bad weather. One customer tried to place a bulk order worth 15,000 rupees, accepted delivery, then demanded full refund, claiming quality issues when returning products. So they've this is a hypothetical company, but you have to, for your intents and purposes, it's a real company. They've given you, these are the problems that we're facing, and the founders realize that they need proper terms and conditions on their website to protect their business while complying with Indian e-commerce laws. They approach you to draft a comprehensive TNC that addresses their specific challenges while ensuring legal compliance. Okay. Now, is that something that you can work with? And so your task here is we're not even saying that you draft it from scratch. Okay. What we're showing you here is, and this is, guys, in a real life scenario, this is 90% of the time, this is going to be the case that you will encounter. When you look at a startup, you open their website, they will have some form of terms and conditions because everyone's doing it, their friend told them to do it. So they'll put it on there, but they will not actually, pay it much attention, which is exactly the opportunity window. So terms and conditions will be there. Okay, so they also have something here. Let's very, very briefly go through it. Now, and this is just to give you an example. So here it says that this is what the terms and conditions says. There is a minimum order value of 500 rupees for all purchases on the platform. Okay. Now, again, without cheating, please tell me, do you think that that's a sort of fair thing to have on the website? And answers can vary. There can be different opinions on this. No, yes, mixed. Okay. No, yes. See, there are some no's and some yeses. You know why there are some no's and some yeses? Because we are thinking, some of you are probably thinking from the customer side, and some of you are probably thinking from the business's side, right? And that's exactly why there are no's and yeses. So from as a customer, it's very, very unfair. As a business, it is probably fair, right? So from the business's side, if they keep servicing, because remember, they are going to be incurring costs in the whole sort of from A to Z. They are going to incur order taking, order processing, delivery, logistics, every type of cost they're going to incur. So now if someone wants to place an order for 100 rupees, it's simple, in simple language, unko vara nahi khayega, right? We understand like business languages, it doesn't work for them basically. Financially, it doesn't make any sense for them. So what in this situation you can do as a lawyer to make it make sense for both parties is you redraft it something in this manner. To maintain operational efficiency and service quality, we have implemented a minimum order value of 500 rupees. This helps us A, ensure cost-effective delivery services, B, maintain product quality during transportation, reduce carbon footprint through optimized logistics. For orders below 500, a small order handling fee of 75 rupees will be applicable. This fee covers additional logistics and operational costs for smaller orders. Does that make sense? Does this read a bit more reasonable for both parties? Yes. Yes, it does. Fair. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. Okay. We want to be in a position, we want to put the business in a position that no one is going to be able to challenge something, which to them makes business sense, but it's drafted in a way that it just comes across as straight away in violation of, basic like consumer law. Because the customer is going to be like, what? Why will I not be able to buy something for the value that I want, right? That's not fair to me. Now, similarly, something about cancellation fees. Okay, for fresh produce orders, that are refused a delivery on COD that are refused a delivery, we may charge a cancellation fee up to 100% of the order value due to product wastage. Guys, I think that's onerous. I think that's onerous in my view. Okay, it's too much. Now, how can we redo this, right? For fresh produce orders placed on COD that are refused a delivery without valid reason, a cancellation fee of 30% of order value of 150, whichever is lower, will be charged to cover restocking, logistics, partial product wastage. Valid reasons for refusal include product delivered is visibly damaged or rotten, emergency situations, medical emergencies, delivery attempted outside agreed time slot, cancellation fee waived if customer provides photographic evidence of product quality issues at delivery attempt. So see, guys, are you being able to tell now the difference between something like this, how it's drafted, and how this is redrafted? Are you being able to tell qualitatively what the difference is between these two? Exactly. See, Himadi, how can we decide this 30%? Now, this is indicative. For the purpose of this example, I've come up with 30%. What you can do depending on, when you're doing it actually for a client, you will have that conversation with them and you will understand their, what their financials are and how much they can reasonably incur. And ideally, they will be very upfront and honest with you कि इतना, this is our baseline, इसके नीचे तो हमें, it will just not work for us, right? So accordingly, you can frame it in a way that it then works for both parties, for a customer and for the business, of course, and it doesn't feel like it falls foul of consumer protection regulations as well. Is there any ceiling under law? I probably think not, but this is something that you'll have to check because this is like private. Essentially, it's just a business like it's a private sort of commerce transaction. So I don't think that the commercials would be specified anywhere. So this will be a result of, I guess, regular sort of market practice, market standard, what you call. So these are just two examples, okay? So now is the homework part of today's webinar clear? Like what needs to be done? Is that clear? No worries. Thank you. You're welcome, Madhuri. Yes. Okay, great. Bhumi, which part do you want me to repeat? Because I'm afraid that will be like a whole 10 additional minutes. Tell me what you want me to repeat and I'll just go over it at the end of the session. Okay. Now that you know exactly what to look for in a terms and conditions document, let's talk about how to find startups that need your help. Now we'll give you a quick sort of live demo, and this is something so cool. I have recently come across this, and this genuinely blew my mind. So I opened this website, okay, and of course we'll share this link with you as well. And this is where it takes us. Do we all know what Shark Tank is, guys? Have you all heard of Shark Tank? Or conceptually, do we know what it is? You watched it, some of us? Yes. Okay, brilliant. Now, These are basically companies that have been on Shark Tank. Okay, Shark Tank India, season 3. It's a list of companies. Now, you would think that these companies will really have their house in order. They will have all of their stuff sorted. They will, at the very least, have a watertight, sort of terms and conditions on their website. Do we think that, or what do you think? Yes? Yes? Okay. I'll tell you what they actually, so many of these companies don't, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. And this will give you then an idea of what we keep, going on about when we say opportunity. Okay. Now look at this website, just for example. Adil Qadri, this seems like a Attar website, like a perfume merchant. And very great looking website, all is sorted. But then I scroll right to the bottom and find their terms and conditions. Okay. There we go. Terms of service. Now, this is something that okay, so now you'll have something like this. And if you have a checklist, you can absolutely do like a live, comparison similar to what you will do for your homework. Okay. This is obviously not part of your homework, but you can do this separately. But there are a couple of things that I just wanted to flag because I was just going over this earlier. And trust me, there will be many more. Now, there is a governing law clause here. Can you read the governing law clause and tell me if you think there is something off with this governing law clause? Is everybody able to read? Are you able to, is it visible? Okay. Jurisdiction. It's not specific. It's narrow. Exactly. When you look at an agreement, what do you mean is going to be construed in accordance with the laws of Chapaneri streets? It's going to be construed in line with the laws of India, and perhaps the local courts will have jurisdiction. When you talk about jurisdiction, perhaps the local court may have jurisdiction, right? So, and imagine this is a company that has been on Shark Tank, and this is the kind of stuff that they have on their terms and conditions. Okay, then this is just one example. So again, this is just indicative. Okay, now there is going to be several sort of things here that you will be able to spot. So now look at this personal information under section 10. Your submission of personal information through the store is governed by a privacy policy. To view our privacy policy, full stop. Okay. Now, one might argue that this is a proofing error, but it nonetheless is an error. Okay. And this is not when you approach a client with a, okay, this is something that I can fix for you. They will just appreciate the value, right? So look at just the kind of stuff that you can, sort of see. And I'm pretty sure if you go through this in proper detail and map it against the checklist that we have firstly you understand what they do, have a good look at their website, see what they do, and then you map it against the checklist, you will be able to come up with several things that you can either are basically wrong or incorrect, or you can improve massively for them. Okay. Another example, just so we know that this really does apply. Okay. Something like this: Cinnamon Kitchen, beautiful looking food sort of, website, terms of service. Okay. Similar exercise you can do here, and you will come across several items here. They had a very interesting thing here. See, this agreement shall begin on the date hereof. Our terms and conditions were created with the help of the free terms and conditions generator. Guys, is that an excuse if this is poorly drafted? If tomorrow someone challenges it, okay? If tomorrow someone says, they have an issue with their product or service, and if tomorrow someone says, look, this was the issue, how can you say? And then they go to their terms and conditions and say, but it's written on our terms and conditions. You really think something like this is going to stand in court? the consumer can literally say, are you serious right now? Are you seriously telling me that this is something that stands, right? Exactly. So guys, these are companies that have been on Shark Tank, and this is the kind of stuff. Again, these are very cosmetic improvements that I'm telling you. You go through this in detail, and you'll be able to see exactly the kind of changes that improve it for everybody involved and prevent the business from scrutiny, ensure that they are compliant. I'm just going to do actually a quick Control F just for our sake. No mention of the DPDP Act anywhere. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing. Okay. So make sure that these are the things that you're looking at as well. And okay, so is the broad sort of takeaway clear here? What we can do for these websites? Really an oversight or fraud hiding in plain sight? I mean, it's probably an oversight, Mitali, because why would a company? It doesn't make sense for them not to be like defrauding people like this. It's just so bad for their reputation. Okay. Or potentially to evade responsibility. You never know. But I believe that if you actually flag it, most of the times these people are just not aware. If you tell them, the thing is you have to make them realize that they are, if anything, they are going to land up in more trouble if they do stuff like this, because they are not going to be able to not evade response. If someone, a disgruntled consumer tomorrow decide, we are a very litigious country. If someone decides tomorrow to take them up over a spoiled pastry, they are going to be in a world of trouble. Okay. So tell them that this is an issue. And yeah, I think now everyone is clear. So now we'll quickly move on to the next segment. See, we've already shown you how to, reach out to sort of founders, through Rocket Reach in the earlier live session. You can totally apply the same strategy, okay? The only extra thing you will need to do is go through the founders' websites, terms and conditions, and, the company's terms and conditions, and identify if there's anything missing or can be improved in the website's terms and conditions. If you have any questions, do let me know conceptually. I believe none, but very happy to take. We're almost at the end of the teaching, so we'll quickly take questions at the end as well. So now, what do you actually say to founders when you reach out to them? Okay. You do not ask for work. You offer to solve a problem they have. We spoke about this very briefly in the first session as well. This remains your core mantra. Okay. Nobody cares about your credentials. They care about what you bring to the table for them. Okay. Now, always get your messages and drafts reviewed and vetted before you send it out to the client. And we are going to do it for you tomorrow as part of your homework. Okay. Yes, ideally, guys, you want someone to do this for you on an ongoing basis. Okay. You want someone to be able to, look at this when you're actually sending these outreach messages, when you're reviewing these people's agreements. If someone actually, you don't want to be able to make mistakes in front of clients, right? So ideally, you want to have some kind of support for you on at least initially when you're completely new to this. So anyway, this is a draft sort of message that you can send. Hi, so and so, I'm a lawyer who routinely works with fast-growing startups on their early-stage documentation and compliance work. I've been following the growth of your company under the brand so and so for quite some time. I'm highly impressed with the pace at which your company is growing in the industry. Okay, I was just going through your website and noticed a few gaps in your terms and conditions that could potentially expose you to regulatory scrutiny and/or customer disputes in the future. Let me highlight a few for your understanding. No mention of a designated grievance officer, which is mandatory under the consumer protection rules. We just saw that for our whatever cinnamon place. No mention of the legal name, registered address, and customer care details, which are also mandatory under. Again, guys, you will. I keep saying this, but you will have to have very strong grasp of the law. So always begin with the law, even when you're working with contracts. Use of broad disclaimers, which may not stand in a court of law, and you can insert others as well. Of course, you will look at the checklist. You will look at the several things that might come up. But for the sake of this message, don't make it make it useful but not exhaustive. Okay, just you want to give them an idea that this is the kind of stuff that can go wrong. I'd be happy to get on a quick call to discuss this further and help you resolve it before it becomes a problem. You can either book a meeting with me, and you can send your Calendly or whatever, or you respond to this email with time slots that work for you. Please note that this is not a commercial proposal. I'm genuinely interested in seeing your company grow. Guys, this is a double, this lifts a lot of weight. You are doing both things. You are staying in compliance with BCI rules, which are very, very strict about non-solicitation or not soliciting or advertising your work. And you are also sticking to that value first sort of position that you take with the potential client. Okay. Now, for non-law professionals, you can do a similar message, but you introduce yourself accordingly: a contracts and business documentation specialist, whatever your background may be, CA, CS, HR, operational procurement, who helps fast-growing startups tighten their early-stage paperwork. I was going through your website and noticed a few gaps and could create customer disputes or compliance issues later, and I'd be happy to point them out to you. I'd recommend having a lawyer review the final version before you rely on it. Again, for any professional services, that doesn't matter if it's law or not, it's a very good idea to be very, very transparent about this sort of thing to avoid any professional liability. This is not a commercial proposal. If it helps, a testimonial or LinkedIn review is all I ask. Would a 15-minute call be useful? Boom. You've just, now the thing is, there are going to be hits and misses, like most things. You will send 20 messages. It's possible that not all of 20 of them reply, but it is highly likely that a couple of them will reply. Of course, depending on how, how useful you've made yourself in your message. Now, the thing is, you have identified the problem and offered to solve it. Most people just ask for work. You are showing them a specific issue, so you're already winning ahead. So many people, I have so many people who just ask for work. And they know the problem exists, but do not have anyone to solve it. Early stage startups cannot afford expensive lawyers. Guys, please remember, lawyers, established firms, established firms, even a small to mid-sized firm is going to be able to be charging something which will just seem like an unnecessary business expense to an early stage sort of startup founder. Okay. But the risk doesn't go away. Without proper terms, they face litigation, consumer complaints, regulatory penalties, and problems during fundraising. The last one is so important because especially for growing startups and founders who have sort of expansion in mind, this will be such a huge hiccup for them. Okay. So when do you actually get paid? And I remember that people have always had this question. So many of you raised this in the last webinar as well. Focus on delivering a great result, a testimonial, and building a track record that wins the next paying client. Okay, don't quote a price in the first message. Prove value first. Again, guys, this is going to do two things. When you're just starting out, you are not going to be that confident as well. Okay, even if you have someone to review your work, you are still going to be, a little finding your feet. At that stage, if you're, quoting a price, worst case scenario, if there is something wrong, that's just going to destroy or erode your credibility before it's even built, okay, before it's even started. The more sort of, do a few sort of agreements, okay, do a few free agreements. What this will also build is your ease and your comfort with the document, with the draft, with the review. And once you have the client's trust in your work, you can, charge between, for example, between 5 to 8K for a terms and conditions, 3 to 5,000 for an NDA, and up to 50 to 25K for a co-founder agreement. Okay. It's a process. It's not a one-time, overnight thing, but it is going to require effort, but it does pay off in the end if you're diligent with what you're doing. We, of course, do a lot of coaching for our diploma students with pricing bigger work and negotiating the scope and setting international rates, because that is a craft of its own. There is a massive, massive international market. You have, for example, a cost advantage. I'm not even talking about, even Indian lawyers are expensive for Indian startups, but even in the US, when you go to all of these sort of slightly more developed, economies, their lawyers there will be charging anything between $500 to $1,500 per hour. Imagine that. You just don't want that kind of an expense as a business, even in the US. So you are able to do this for a fraction of the price. But you don't just send one message and hope for the best. You follow the sequence. So day one, you do your initial outreach message. And let's say on day 4, You gently follow up, with your founder based in India. You congratulate them about, let's say, a recent milestone. You can browse the LinkedIn, just do a quick Google search or something they've shared on their public profile. You might be able to come across, or offer to connect them with someone relevant in the industry. Basically, try to have like a warm, sort of relevant conversation. Because remember, you're also positioning yourself as someone who is not desperate for work, but is, keen to offer value. Similarly, you can do something similar on the day 7 follow-up, and then on day 10, do like a final follow-up. You offer a time limited consultation, and then if at that point they respond, it's great. Otherwise, close that and you move on. Okay. Now, every follow-up must provide something new and valuable. Do not just send gentle reminders. Add value with every message. Okay. You saw what we just did with all our different days. Okay. Now, this is one message. You have to do it consistently and get every review and email right, so you never embarrass yourself. You handle the founder's questions and turn a conversation into regular paid work. That is the hard part, okay? I'm not going to say that this is, that this is it. This is the start. And then as you sort of get a grasp of this, and then you come across different fact situations, because trust me, you will. That is the hard part, and you ideally want someone who's able to have to review and correct your drafts, or to help you identify why, for example, your emails are not getting responses, or even to decide how to price your services, because this is just something that you will not be able to decide in isolation, right? You need a support system for exactly this kind of exchange of ideas. So the difference between trying it once and building an income from it is having a support system in place. And later this week, we'll show you exactly what that looks like. Okay. Now, we've given you a sort of this is the take-home exercise. Now you can identify 5 startups using the methods we discussed. Review their terms and conditions using the given checklist. Note down at least 3 issues of missing clauses for each startup, and draft a personalized outreach message for at least one founder. Okay. And be ready to share your findings in the group tomorrow between 4 to 5 p.m. Okay, we're very happy to see, people when they actually take our assignments very seriously, because it helps keep our energy up, and it's always nice to see people actually applying what they are learning in class. So the difference between the 1% and the 99% is rarely motivation. It's having someone check your work so that you're confident enough to send that email to clients. So we're going to be helping you with that tomorrow between 4 to 5. And thank you very much for attending, guys. Our next session is, you have the calendar up. I believe it's on Monday. Bhumika can correct me if I'm wrong, but the calendar is up on the WhatsApp description, and it's on freelancing, how to create a Fiverr profile and list your gigs. And of course, as usual, we are here for the next couple of minutes to answer any questions that you may have. So please, the floor is open. Do let us know.
There are some people who are saying that they want to submit the assignment. They were not able to. They can, I'll open the Google form again. You can submit your responses and we'll review the same. Okay. I'll just open the Google form tomorrow morning. Just upload the same. But you also have to do the assignment that we have been given today, right? So make sure to do the both. Himani, we don't provide recording for the class, as already discussed in the previous session as well, due to certain proprietary reasons. Yes, Shruti, currently the form is not active. That's why it's not getting submitted. I'll open the form tomorrow. You can submit, okay? Next session is on Fiverr gigs. We just showed you, right? It's basically on freelancing, how to create a Fiverr profile and list your gigs. Sure, Manthan, we can do one thing. From the next week, you'll be given a portal. You can submit the quizzes on that, okay? We will not post the quizzes on group, okay?
Shivank, yes, we will be sharing the checklist. PPT again, Ayushi, I'm sorry, but we will not be able to share it for proprietary reasons, as Bhumika mentioned.
Srishti
Our-
saying
yeah.
provide today's material for reading. Yes, we'll be providing everything as a giveaway. I'll open the group for feedback. Once that's done, I'll provide all the giveaways, okay? All the checklist and all the messages that were shared in the current slides.
Mahesh, why will startup pay us? They can simply copy the industry big players' terms and modify them using AI. Mahesh, startups will pay you once if you have, you need to basically know what is the value that you're adding to be able to even, do like a soft pitch or even offer that kind of value to the client. You will understand what is the value that you are able to bring only when you see enough agreements and enough documents across the board to actually say, oh my God, there is so much wrong with these AI generated agreements. Okay. On the surface, AI will do everything, but it's only when you start actually reviewing it with the mind of a lawyer do you realize how wrong it can be, given the situation.
ఇంకా సేల్ కి ఎట్లుందనేది ఇప్పుడు నీకు చూపిస్తాను.
Even best case scenario, or rather for a lawyer, worst case scenario, a potential client has, generated it even using AI. You will still have the work. They will still need ideally a lawyer to review it, right? At the very least, a review, even if it's not a draft.
నీకు పంపించింది చూడు.
Yashaswini, what all laws? Yeah, the checklist will have it. Since I e-commerce website, specifically focus on the terms and conditions, policy, and I understand that it is the ask is very much related to the topic.
వస్తదేమో మళ్ళీ.
A CCPA compliance advocate is quite expensive. I'm afraid that is going to be immensely beyond the scope of today's session. But I will definitely check if that is something that we can add to our future communities, or well, add even to this community. I'll definitely check back. Can I get the site? What should we post on LinkedIn? Rohini, I'm not sure I follow. Can you please tell me? I didn't follow.
Rohini, we'll have a dedicated session for LinkedIn also, like how you can post these things on LinkedIn and can build a public contract authority. That's our session 8. So make sure to attend the same, right?
Okay, I think we've mostly addressed things. Bhumika, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we were able to almost resolve all the queries. Is there anything else left? I think we have covered everything.
లాస్ట్ ఇయర్ పోయినప్పుడు ఈ
Deepika, can
బిట్
you
ఉండే, కాకపోతే
quickly say what
లోపలికి
your question
అవుతుంది
was?
అనేది
Criticism.
నీకు కూడా తీసుకొని ఎందుకులే లోపలికి అవుతుందని నాకు ఉండే.
Okay.
లొకేషన్ కూడా నీకు ఇప్పుడు
Follow-ups
పంపిస్తాను.
also pricing for US startup.
లొకేషన్ కూడా పంపించింది చూడు.
So Deepika S says, ma'am, about US startup, how to reach out to them and follow-ups, and also about pricing for US startup. Bhumika, is this something we are discussing eventually later?
Which one? Just a sec. Let me see the question.
US startup, reaching out and pricing.
Yes, we'll be covering the same in webinar 4.
Okay.
International clients and everything.
Okay.
పని చేయండి మీరు. నేనేమైనా కొంచెం ఏమనుకోకుండా కొంచెం బాగా అనుకోకుండా.
Vishal is also asking how to access the Gry Now website influencer. The website asks whether we are influencer or brand. Just the way we taught you yesterday in the session, how to use the Gry Now website. We were looking for micro and nano influencers first to start easily. You see people who have less followers, like that you start the